Yeah, Victor and Destiny, as you said, we're in the Chevy Chase area of Lexington. I'm going to walk you around to kind of see what we're looking at. This is Melrose Avenue. First, we have this massive tree down. As you can see, I mean, it ripped the sidewalk up with it. It fell into a home here. And really, every way we turn in this area, we are just seeing damage, more damage. You can see a tree on a home here. It's even worse, believe it or not, from the backyard. We spoke with a gentleman who lives here. He said he's been in this home for 30 years. He's still waiting for official word on how bad the damage actually is, but in his eyes, he sees it as a total loss. If you walk down here, we've got more trees down. A woman has some pretty bad damage to her home over here. Her car is pretty much totaled. We've been out here for maybe an hour or so, just walking through this neighborhood, and we've only made it a few blocks in that 1 hour, and it is just damage after damage on cars, on power lines, on homes, on trees. We spoke with a man, a tree rather, just fell right onto his car. It smashed the driver's seat, was really the spot that had the worst damage. I mean, the car is entirely totaled, but he just said he was grateful he wasn't in the car, because if he was, we really don't know. I mean, he might not be here today. He said he actually watched that tree fall onto his car, and he was just grateful it didn't fall on his home. But I mean, really, any way we go here, we have damage after damage, and we're going to keep showing it to you around Fayette County and around the Commonwealth. But for now, I'll send it back to you all live in Lexington. Samantha Valentino, WKYT. Well, Victor and Destiny, believe it or not, I'm still on Melrose Ave. We've just moved down a block. Before I show you what we're seeing here, we do have a little bit of an update for you. That home where that massive tree had fallen onto that house, ripped up the sidewalk, we have learned from the brother of the woman who lives there that there was a woman inside that home. She actually got trapped. She was taken to UK Hospital. He says with minor injuries. She's more shaken up than anything. Just really grateful that her injuries weren't more severe there. Now over here, we've moved up a block. We're at Melrose in Castle. You can see a lot of trees down. Thankfully, the damage isn't as bad here. This tree took down a power line with it. Thankfully, folks over here still have power for the most part, but really just damage everywhere. Power lines, homes, cars. We are seeing a lot of condemned homes, at least 3 just in this little area of maybe 4 blocks or so. We spoke with one woman. Her family has had that home since 1956. It was her parents' house, and then now obviously she lives there. The home is condemned. A tree fell on her home and her car. She says she was told she can't go back into the house. They're just telling her she can stay on her porch pretty much. Whatever she grabbed on her way out is all she's going to be able to access. Cannot go back in her own home right now. She's just trying to figure out where to go. But again, she said she's just glad she wasn't hurt. She still has her life. She still has her little kitty cat and their life. So a lot of folks, you know, there's going to be a lot of cleanup here, but they're just grateful the damage isn't worse to their homes. They didn't get hurt. We are hearing chainsaws ringing through the neighborhood, just, you know, people trying to start the cleanup process while they can. But for now, I'll send it back to you all in the studio live in Lexington. Samantha Valentino, WKYT. Yeah, Victor and Kristen, this is Sunset Ave. As you mentioned, we are still in the Chevy Chase area, believe it or not. We've been out here for probably an hour and a half or so, and we haven't even been able to show you all of the damage. I mean, trees are down on power lines, on homes, on cars even. I know when you first saw me, we told you about a gentleman whose car was crushed by a tree. He actually watched this happen. Now, I don't know if you can tell, obviously the car is likely totaled, but the biggest chunk of that tree is actually in the driver's seat. This happened around 9:30, the time most of us are getting into our cars to start our day. So he was really, really thankful that he wasn't in the car. He's working with insurance, obviously, to figure out the situation here, but his home is actually right there. That's where the tree came from over here. They have another tree down, just barely missed the house. So he was able to safely actually watch as this tree fell and crushed his car. Just a lot of damage, but again, thankful that there aren't any injuries over here. People are out assessing the damage in their neighborhood. We are seeing a lot of cars out on the roads, and I want to remind you, we've got a lot of power lines down, mixed up in trees, dangling down, laying in the road. While a lot of them are cut, you do not want to assume anything. So please, if you can avoid this area, I know you want to get out and see what kind of damage the storm has done. Just stay here with us. We promise we will show you it all here in Fayette County and across the Commonwealth, but you want to make sure you're safe, especially as Chris and Jim are saying, this isn't all of the severe weather we're unfortunately going to see today. Just a crazy, crazy scene here in Chevy Chase. We're going to keep moving around Fayette County to show you what we can. But for now, I will send it back to you all. Live in Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT. Amber, you can definitely hear it. You can also see it. KU is here. We've got people chopping down some trees. As you mentioned, this is Fontaine Road in the Chevy Chase area. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you power is out on this street. Several different trees have taken out multiple power lines. You can see there's a lot of transformers even laying on the roads. You really don't realize the size of these things until they're on the street next to you. Trees not only impacting power lines, also homes. We've got a car here that was crushed. A pretty miraculous story here where we heard from neighbors earlier. The driver of this car was actually in the driver's seat and he heard this tree starting to crack. So what he did was he managed to move over into the passenger seat, and if you come and look, he made it out of this car without a scratch. Really a miraculous story here. We have heard of a few people with some minor injuries in Lexington, but I know this man sure is grateful he made it out okay here. As you can see, they're getting ready to replace some of these power lines here. A lot of work still left to be done. Of course, we will continue to track it all for you throughout the evening. I mean, just look at this mess. There was earlier today another massive tree laying right here. You can see all the branches. It's now been chopped up. Next up, they're going to replace this pole. But for now, I will send it back to you all live in Lexington. Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
Areas without power, and at 4, we could see and hear that crews were hard at work in trying to restore that power.
Yeah, Bill and Amber, those crews are definitely still hard at work. I'm sure you can hear them. Still without power. They are slowly but surely cutting up this tree so they can move it out of the roadway and eventually get to replacing these power lines. I mean, these entire poles were just ripped out of the ground and knocked down. We've got some cars trying to pass through the area. That's another reminder for you all. I know we heard from the mayor and other city officials earlier. I know everybody wants to see what's happening here, but if you can, just stay home. It's a lot of activity, a lot of down lines that are still live. So just let us show you what's happening and stay home, stay off the roads, because we know we've got some more severe weather coming. You can see behind me more down trees, more down power lines. We're slowly making our way up there to show you this damage as these KU crews are also making their way up to hopefully restore this power for folks here soon. A lot of damage. We'll keep showing it all to you as we continue on throughout the evening. But for now, live in Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT. It's actually a very sad scene here. I want you to take a moment and imagine that you wake up thinking it's going to be a normal day, and then before you know it, you're moving out of your home. That is the unfortunate situation here for several families. We have at least 4 different homes that are condemned just in this one very small block that we're in on Melrose Ave. We've got a family moving out. We have another woman. Her home is condemned. Her car is totaled, both by different trees. Her family has been in that home since 1956. It's the house she grew up in, lived there her whole life. Now she's the owner, and now it's condemned. She's without a place to stay. This home is one of the few that seems to be okay, but people are really taking care of each other out here because there's a couple who lives in this home here. They've owned it for 30 years. This home is condemned. They've had to move out last minute, and now they're able to move in with their neighbors here. So it's really nice. Through all of this mess, we're seeing people helping each other, opening their homes to them, helping people move out. Right here, you don't need me to tell you, we've got a massive tree that has fallen. It's taken the sidewalk with it, even a massive chunk of the street. Now, we spoke to the brother of the homeowner here. A woman lives here. He told us that she was actually trapped in her home when this tree fell on the home. This home is condemned as well, as you can imagine. She was taken to UK Hospital. Thankfully, though, he told us she has minor injuries. She was really more shaken up than anything. But I mean, look at the damage that this tree has done to her home. It's a mess out here. And as you can hear, crews are slowly trying to clean it up, get these massive trees off of homes, off of power lines, and eventually restore power to everybody. But we've got to be patient with people. I know some people at home are maybe watching from their phones, waiting for their power to be restored. But we've got a lot happening here, so I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you so we can get out of these guys' way. Live in Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT. Absolutely, Bill and Amber. A lot of work still to come here. This home is one of 4 on the street that's been condemned. This woman told us her family's owned the home since 1956. She grew up here. I don't know if you can see behind me, her car is also totaled by the same tree that has caused some damage to her home. Next door neighbor, their home also condemned. They're having to move out unexpectedly today. As you can hear and see, we've got a massive wood chipper here. We've got crews with chainsaws that are cutting down these trees into little pieces to try to start to clean up the mess here. Obviously, they're putting those pieces into the wood chipper now to kind of get some of this debris out of the road. And speaking of the roads, we're seeing a lot of people passing through here just trying to get a look at what's happening. We really want you to be safe and also keep these crews who are out here working safe. Just stay home, keep it with WKYT all night, and we'll show you what's happening. But for now, I will send it back to you all in the studio. Live in Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT. Yes, they have, Bill and Amber. They haven't quite made their way over here yet. We're at Castle and Sunset. You can see a massive tree down in this front yard behind us. Thankfully, no damage to this house, but one of these homeowners has a little bit of an unfortunate story here. He says he was sitting in one of those front windows and he watched as this tree cracked and fell right smack dab onto his car. He says the car is totaled, obviously, but he sure is grateful that he wasn't inside of that car because that big chunk of tree landed right where he would have been sitting if he was in that driver's seat. So he's just grateful to have his life. He was inside. The home had no damage. Unfortunately, he's working with insurance to figure something out for this car. But again, this happened at like 9:30, 10 o'clock this morning, peak time when we're heading out to start our day. He's just glad that he was just waking up. But for now, I'll send it back to you all. Live in Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT. Yeah, Bill and Amber, as you said, we've been in Chevy Chase all day long, and we've yet to run out of new areas to show you in terms of damage. We are currently at the corner of Castle and Sunset. You can see behind me a pretty large tree has fallen and taken over the front yard of this home, took a bit of this power line with it. Thankfully, no damage to this home. However, one of the homeowners saw some damage to his car. He actually watched from that upstairs window there as a massive tree cracked and landed on his car. Now, he told us this happened between 9:30, 10 o'clock when you're thinking about your weekday morning commute. That's the time a lot of people are hopping in their cars and getting ready to start their day. So he told us he is just immensely grateful that he wasn't in this car because, as you can see, that tree landed right in that driver's seat where he would have been as he was getting ready to head out the door. But thankfully, he was just waking up instead. And you can maybe hear the chainsaws. The crews cleaning up haven't quite made it over here yet. There is still a lot of work to do all throughout Chevy Chase. They're slowly but surely getting through, trying to pick up trees, fix power lines, get that power restored for folks. You just got to stay patient and stay at home. Don't come out here and try to see for yourself. Let us just tell you what's going on. But for now, I will send it back to you all in the studio. Live in Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
Yes, live now from Lexington's Chevy Chase neighborhood. And Samantha, it looks like and it sounds like crews are still hard at work there.
That's exactly right, guys. We've got crews of all kinds out here working. And if you don't remember what Lexington's Fontaine Road looked like yesterday, let me remind you, this street was littered with trees, downed poles, downed wires. I spoke with KU earlier today. They told me that they had more than 35 poles go down in yesterday's storms across the city of Lexington. Now, each of those poles takes more than a couple of hours to replace. So if you're wondering why so many people are still without power, it's because a lot of work goes into turning the lights back on.
For LG&E and KU, we're talking near 40,000 customers. For the Lexington area, 11 to 12,000. So, you know, Lexington was about the hardest hit in terms of outages.
But good news for Lexingtonians.
Right now, our estimate for Lexington looks like we'll get most customers back up by tonight. There may be a few, and unfortunately, that we can't get until tomorrow.
As they wait for their power to be restored, people on Fontaine Road are working to clean up what they can.
Put some trees down in the backyard, and then our service line got pulled from the meter base when the tree fell. So we've been working through that and just still honestly kind of cleaning up and evaluating.
Lots of trees were knocked down in the storms, falling onto cars, homes, and into the street. The crews from Mother Nature Co. are volunteering their time to help clean them all up.
We try to come together as a community and try to help each other out and stuff. I think everybody should be more open and generous like that. We're just trying to help the community, but yeah, this is very devastating, and I'm glad no one's been injured.
And I know for a fact that a lot of people here in this neighborhood share that feeling of gratitude that there weren't any serious injuries here. However, there were quite a few close calls. Let me remind you, you might not recognize this car without the massive tree that fell on top of it. There was actually a driver in this car when the tree fell on top of it. That driver tells neighbors that he heard a tree starting to crack and he was able to make it over to the passenger side before it hit, and he left this scene without a scratch. Live in Lexington, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.
All right, Sam, thank you very much.